All right, right now it's 6. Oakland breaks up a Vigilante construction project that neighbors say was keeping their streets safe from sideshows, but they told us, that fight's not over.
This is CBS News Bay Area with Juliet Goodrich.
Good evening. Fed up with sideshows, they took matters into their own hands, and now people in one East Oakland neighborhood say their safety is at risk again after the city removed their makeshift speed bumps. Okay, so we're talking about the area around East 21st Street and 19th Avenue in the Highland Terrace neighborhood. You may remember last year we showed you how neighbors had put in dozens of speed bumps on their own, and that's because the area had become a hotbed for sideshows. Someone was even shot and killed in one just a few blocks away. So neighbors say the speed bumps worked, but last week the city took them out, saying they were actually making the roads more dangerous. Our Amanda Harry spoke with both sides of this street safety debate.
After years of sideshows, people living near East 21st Street and 19th Avenue were fed up. They filed reports, created petitions, and contacted city leaders, but nothing was done.
When the city fails to act, we act.
Michael Andemeskel says the sideshows impacted everyone. People feared for their safety and needed to stay inside. Even then, they couldn't escape the smoke and the noise.
It's a terrible experience. And, the next day you're just not the same. Kids can't go to school, you can't, do work.
And Andemeskel spearheaded the effort to take matters into their own hands. They gathered money from neighbors and as a group installed dozens of speed bumps at several intersections. Another neighbor who did not want to appear on camera says their efforts worked.
Like our little neighborhood watch that everybody kind of chipped in and they implemented it. And it was safe for a while until just last week it was removed, and the same day they came at night.
You can see in this video city workers pulling up the speed bumps last week, several months after they were installed.
You can still see where the speed bumps once were. They say if the city won't put them back, they're going to do it themselves, and they're not worried about the repercussions.
No one's afraid of what the city's going to do. And if they're going to rip them out, we're going to put them back in again. We can do this all day.
Director of Transportation Josh Rowan says about a month ago he was riding a bus when he was jostled by the speed bumps. That's when he realized he needed to take a look at them.
And after reviewing the operations and discussing with my engineering team, we felt it was too much risk for the traveling public to leave them there. We were actually observing cars swerving out of the travel lane to avoid these bumps that had been installed.
Rowan says they're working on a safety project that'll bring more funding to that area of town, but it won't start until 2027. In the meantime, they're working on a short-term solution of paint and posts.
We want to work with them. We want to get solutions that are solving these problems, but they keep getting out in front of us. And that's not helping either us or them.
But Andemeskel argues it's just a matter of time until someone gets hurt or killed. And the city needs to act quickly.
A couple of demands from the city. We demand that they come up with a plan to deal with the sideshow issue by June 6th, right? And that they implement whatever the solution is within reasonable time frame, 4 weeks or 6 weeks. And if not, we're just going to put them back.
So before the speed bumps, neighbors installed a makeshift divider using tires filled with dirt and concrete to prevent sideshows. The city removed those as well after a car hit one of the tires and then flipped on its side. Immigrant advocates rallied in San Francisco today over recent ICE arrests at local immigration courts.
When immigrant rights are under attack, what do we do? Stand up, fight back.
Today's protest was outside the San Francisco Immigration Court on Montgomery Street. Yesterday, 4 immigrants were arrested there while attending an asylum hearing. Attorneys and immigration rights advocates say federal agents are showing up at courthouses, undermining due process.
These are people in an active pending court proceeding, were being arrested and detained, taken out of San Francisco, moved to a detention facility in Central California, and now the government is trying to say that they do not deserve the chance to have their asylum case reviewed by an immigration judge.
The Department of Homeland Security says individuals who entered the U.S. without authorization in the past 2 years are being placed into expedited removal, a process they say was underutilized by the previous administration. ICE has detained nearly a dozen people at immigration courts across Northern California, in addition to the 4 in San Francisco. Advocates tell us 4 were arrested in Concord and 3 in Sacramento. Meantime, the Justice Department is launching an investigation to determine whether California is violating the Title IX civil rights law by allowing transgender females to participate in women's sports at public state schools. So this comes as a trans athlete gears up to compete at the state finals in track and field. John Ramus reports it has inflamed an issue central to President Trump's supporters as the worlds of sport, law, and politics all collide.
At issue is a California law that guarantees students the right to participate in sports based on their gender identity. That's now being challenged on the basis of the federal law that protects women athletes from discrimination. A.B. Hernandez is a transgender field athlete who just qualified to compete for a state title in the long jump, high jump, and triple jump events. When she qualified first in the long jump competition, there were a number of angry adults in the crowd calling foul.
That's a boy! That is a boy! Is that even registering as you're competing?
Honestly, no. Nothing I can do about people's actions, just focus on my own.
But President Donald Trump focused on it, sending out messages threatening to cut federal funding, accusing California of illegally allowing men to play in women's sports.
It's truly a blatant abuse of power. Targeting a transgender athlete, underage student, a child to score political points is shameful, and he should be ashamed for doing that.
But shortly thereafter, the group that governs high school sports, the California Interscholastic Federation, or CIF, announced that whoever may have the next closest score to Hernandez would be allowed to compete in the finals as well. It felt like an admission that something may not be fair about the situation, something Governor Gavin Newsom discussed with conservative influencer Charlie Kirk.
Would you say no men in female sports?
Well, I think it's an issue of fairness. I completely agree with you on that. It is an issue of fairness. So it's deeply unfair.
Would you speak out against this young man, A.B. Hernandez, who right now is going to win the state championship in the long jump?
In 2014, years before I was governor, there was a law established that established the legal principles that allow trans athletes in women's sports.
That law was AB 1266, which says, quote, a pupil shall be permitted to participate in sex-segregated school programs and activities, including athletic teams and competitions, and use facilities consistent with his or her gender identity, irrespective of the gender listed on the pupil's records, end quote. CIF says it is required to allow Hernandez to compete for that reason, but a group called the California Families Council disagrees.
This is one of the only issues, the issues of boys and girls sports, that majority of America agrees on. It's an 80-20 issue. We don't see that with many other social issues. So no matter what people within CIF might be feeling or thinking, they keep saying their hands are tied by state law, but in reality, all they would have to do is come out and make a statement and say, we will be following Title IX, which protects girls' sports, which allows for those equal opportunities for females, because at the end of the day, the federal ruling Title IX, it supersedes state law.
But history professor emeritus Susan Kahn at the University of Buffalo has studied women's sports and says the Title IX issue may not be as cut and dried as that.
Title IX has been interpreted the opposite way too, so that gender discrimination could be understood as discriminating against that trans girl because she has a girl's identity. And that's how it was interpreted under Biden. And so it really brings the fuzziness of Title IX, out for us to look at. And that is a question that will probably be decided legally.
In the meantime, the CIF is trying to walk a fine line. This afternoon, they announced that if Hernandez should make it to the finals, quote, a biological female student who would have earned the next qualifying mark will also be advanced to the finals. And if Hernandez should win a medal, a duplicate medal would also be awarded to the next closest female athlete in the competition.
The state championships start Friday afternoon, barely 48 hours after the CIF announced the policy changes. They're being held near Fresno. CIF says it is working with the local school district to ensure there is an appropriate level of security at this event. The San Francisco Unified School District is abandoning a controversial plan to change its grading policy next year. It comes after major backlash from parents and politicians. The Grading for Equity plan would align students' grades with their learning and not their attendance, participation, or other factors. According to a report on the proposal, students could earn a C grade with scores as low as 41 out of 100. Students would also get multiple chances at taking tests and essays. Today, the superintendent said the plan is on hold. And in a social media post, Mayor Daniel Lurie said the changes would not prepare young San Franciscans for success. City of San Jose proposing a temporary ban on new tobacco smoke shops in the city. The moratorium was proposed by Councilmember Peter Ortiz, and a recent report from Santa Clara County Public Health found that cancer happens to be the leading cause of death for Latinos in the county, and that East San Jose is oversaturated with smoke shops, with more than double the number compared to other areas in the county. Advocates say the moratorium will give the city time to come up with a strategy to address this disparity.
This moratorium is necessary, overdue, and deeply rooted in what our communities have been trying to say for years. We're overburdened, underserved, and targeted by harmful industries at the expense of our health.
Councilmember Ortiz says that this is not a ban or an attack on small businesses, but a way to protect the health outcomes of people in the area. Still ahead here at 6, oil prices take center stage in Sacramento. How lawmakers grilled the state's oil czar as 2 refineries get ready to shut down for good. Plus, a unique program teaching both the skills to become a barber and even to run your own shop. We'll meet a graduating senior who just went through it.
It motivates me to continue every day, like I have a purpose in living.
Scientists say 5 gray whales have been found dead in the Bay Area in just the last week. They've been found off of Alcatraz, Point Bonita, Berkeley, Bolinas, and the Farallon Islands. The California Academy of Sciences and the Marine Mammal Center have not been able to determine how any of them died just yet. Scientists say a total of 13 gray whales and 1 minke whale have been found dead in the greater Bay Area so far this year. They say 3 of them were struck and killed by vessels. California lawmakers are looking for answers on the state's looming refinery crisis. Today, oil refineries announced their plans to shut down over the next year. The closure of the Phillips 66 in Southern California and Valero in Northern California will reduce the state's gas output by nearly 20%. Lawmakers asked the state's oil czar if state regulators have made the energy crisis worse.
I know that what climate leadership does not look like, and that is $10 gas. So we've got to be really, really honest with ourselves.
Still having a hard time in terms of the price manipulation. So can you help me with that?
The state's energy committee is slated to work with the Department of Energy to figure out how to stabilize the gas market. High school senior Danny Pablo says he's always had an interest in cutting hair. And when he found out his school offered a barber entrepreneur class, well, that interest transformed into a whole new purpose. Our Suji Nam shows us the class that's giving students the tools to cut hair and even run a shop of their own.
Every great barber knows that a clean set of tools makes for a clean haircut. And that is what Danny Pablo, a senior at Castlemont High School in Oakland, learned on day 1.
Tannic strips on him so it doesn't get itchy on his neck.
And now, on his final day of the barber entrepreneur class, You can say he's a talented barber in training.
Another way to express art by cutting hair.
It all began when Pablo was curious about what life would be like as a barber. And when he found out his school offers a free after-school class on barbering and entrepreneurship, he signed up.
Papers, and then also when I do designs.
He practices by cutting his friend's hair on the weekend, and in class, he has the opportunity to cut real hair, not just on a mannequin.
Vertical sides as well?
Yes, please.
This is one of his teachers, an instructor at the Paul Mitchell Barber School in the East Bay. Pablo gets real-life experience, like several other of his classmates who learn how to master different hairstyles. Frank West founded the Barber Entrepreneur Program 3 years ago.
My background is really about, doing things positive in the community, and at Castmont it's kind of important too because it's like my neighborhood.
He works with 7 professional barbers who dedicate their time to students after school. About 40 students meet twice a week to learn not only how to style hair, but also how to start and run a business.
My hope is that people like Danny are going to come back to the school and then reproduce what I did and stuff, be able to get back. As a teacher, you always like to see that light bulb go off and stuff, so you see a lot of the kids come in here and it's, a wonderful thing.
And the light bulb did go off for Pablo.
It motivates me to continue every day, like I have a purpose in living. I see myself as a barber when I graduate high school. I'm thinking of getting my license and hopefully open a barbershop of my own.
You never know. You may be looking to get a haircut, and you just might see Pablo on the other side.
Danny and the rest of his senior class will finish up high school and graduate this weekend.
Coming up in the First Alert forecast, we need to talk about Friday, especially if you are inland. I know you've had some spikes in heat so far. This one's different. It's going to be the highest we've done yet, and it's going to come on pretty fast. I'll talk to you how high these numbers are going to go, and then I do have good news. We're not staying there long, but I'll get you ready for this heat coming up in the forecast next.
All right, turning now to our First Alert weather. Look at this. We're giving you a live look at Yosemite National Park, one of the spots that could see dangerously hot conditions later this week. So officials are reminding visitors to stay hydrated. Watch for signs of heat exhaustion. It looks so beautiful right now, but take those precautions. Darren Peck joining me now to talk about this heat up, which happens to be on a lot of graduations on Friday in the East Bay, my son. Yeah, so it's going to be really warm there.
Find the sprayers.
Okay.
Get some hydration going.
Not Arizona. We don't have sprayers.
You're going to want some. Okay. Maybe bring a little spritz.
A mister?
Yeah,
okay.
Bring your own mister. I don't care if people laugh. You tell them I said.
Okay, I'll be extra.
And here's the reason I would say that. On Friday, if you're inland, especially if you're in the Tri-Valley, on Friday, or if you're up near Concord, the difference between Thursday's daytime highs to get you to Friday, where the temperature profile shows you we have now jumped into a whole new category here. That smoky white on there is like where Sacramento is going to be doing 105. They haven't done that yet, but let's bring it back home to the Bay because what we really want to see is what that means for numbers here at home. So let's take a look at the numbers on here a couple of different ways. First of all, Friday we start to see that pattern show up with wild swings across the Bay. Daytime high on Friday in Pacifica only 65. San Francisco low 70s. You may be shielded from this on Friday. Probably not going to get the worst of it. But look at the temperature grade here as we start to step our way backwards. Concord, you're already flirting with 100. It's going to be 97 in Concord. I'm putting everybody's number on here for Friday in 1 second so you can pick out your part of the Bay. But look at the spread. Just about on the verge of 100. I don't have anybody technically hitting 100 yet, but you're splitting hairs. It's going to be pretty close. And look how close you are to the 105s out there for Sacramento. Those are the numbers for that line where you really see the microclimates. Just pick out your part of the Bay on here. We'll get everybody else in. Livermore, you're pretty much going there as well. San Jose and the entire Santa Clara Valley. You've got a heat advisory on Friday and Saturday for the Santa Clara Valley. This includes you. It also includes the Santa Cruz Mountains on a Friday. You don't often get heat advisories in the hills. Go up to Santa Rosa, though. Let's check out those numbers in the North Bay. Those are your Friday numbers. Now, if we skip, let's go back in time. Let's get that wide view again. I'll say goodbye to the numbers. And what we're going to watch on here is the change in the visualization. This was today. Here comes Thursday. So you're already a little bit warmer tomorrow, but even at that, when we visualize the temperatures, this is tomorrow. So Friday's the big day. You still have a Thursday to live through. So you get a little bit of marine layer in the morning. Thursday, you're still going up to around 91 inland. You'll be about 87 in Concord. But that's going to be a big jump then to get you from Thursday to Friday. So those were some of the main items just to make sure that you are aware of and ready for what's coming. A couple of other things to look at in the forecast. If your plans do bring you to Yosemite, if we inspired you by taking a look at that live image of Yosemite Falls, this is the flow in the Merced River throughout the course of the year. That light gray line on there shows you how the Merced River changes throughout the year. That's January back there. And this is the entire year, actually, and it takes us all the way out through the peak of where the most water is going over the falls. The reason why I wanted you to see this, we're at peak flow right now in those waterfalls. And if you look at what the forecast is, this gets us into about the next 2 days. Probably the highest flow of the entire year going over Yosemite Falls happens as we get to Friday and Saturday. So if that's your thing, this is the peak. Granted, you need reservations to get in now, so if you don't have them, you probably need to plan for a later point in the summer, and it's going to be nuts there this time of year anyway. And we're splitting hairs on this too. Waterfalls are going to look great for the next 6 weeks, but just on an interesting side note, the peak for the flow is actually coming. Just about over the next few days. And a lot of that does have to do with the spike in temperatures. That's really going to put an added rush on the snowmelt coming out of those mountains. All right, there's our 7-day forecast. Want some good news on Saturday? We have a little. Instead of being on the verge of 100, we'll get you down to 90 on Saturday. And then the real change happens for Sunday. Look at the difference in the weekend. Saturday, you're still at 90 inland. Sunday, you're back down to the 70s. You pretty much stay there for the rest of the 7-day forecast. Let's finish out the microclimates on here, and we'll take a look now at the forecast for the Bay. And you can see the numbers on there as well. A little bit of a jump there, Juliet, for the Bay, but it's really those inland valleys that are going to have this tough.
Wow. Yeah, really tough, especially all those graduates.
Yeah.
And their parents.
Yes.
All right, Darren, thank you.
See you later.
Okay, when we come back, massive crowds at Oracle Park, but it's not for baseball. How K-pop is taking over San Francisco. Plus, here's a look at what's ahead on the CBS Evening News.
Have you called Social Security lately? How long were you on hold?
Social Security's new leader talks about his plans to improve service. How's it going? That's tonight on the CBS Evening News.
Oh yes, tomorrow the Valkyries are out for revenge against the New York Liberty. You can watch Golden State take on the defending WNBA champs right here on KPIX. Our coverage starts right here at 3:30 p.m. Fans are excited to see K-pop band Stray Kids perform tonight at Oracle Park. Here's a live look right now at the crowd. So we've been kind of tracking the lines all day long, which at one point stretched all the way to Pier 40. So fans actually got in line as early as 2 in the morning to secure their spot in the standing room only pit. This is Stray Kids' first American tour in 2 years, and tonight's show completely sold out. This morning, our Veronica Macias spoke to one fan who showed up with a gift and a request.
Stray Kids is one of my favorite bands, and they I love them, yeah. And if I ever had a chance, you know, I would want to marry one of them. That's why.
Who would you ask to marry?
Probably their leader, Bang Chan.
Okay, tonight is all about K-pop, but tomorrow is all about hip-hop, as rap superstar Kendrick Lamar and songstress ZA bring their grand national tour to Oracle Park. CBS Evening News with Maurice Dubois and John Dickerson is next on KPIX. Local news on our streaming service, CBS News Bay Area. Back here in 30 minutes. More news at 7 o'clock. Go Kid Pop.